Wellness Wednesdays. Dr. Shealy-Sorin and also, well, Dr. Norm C. Shealy. By the way, if I can ask for a camera to be slightly adjusted, because I think you can only see, all right, I'll see if we can make that magic happen. But in the meantime, I hope you can all see Laura. Laura Frontiero, you are a very incredible resource. I've met you at one of the conferences, and we did a summit together, as a matter of fact, some time ago. Now, your story is fascinating. Your take on health is fascinating. And I believe today we're going to cover a significant number of broad topics. And that's going to include gut health, toxicity, chronic health disease prevention. In other words, and energy, of course. Now, that's a big package, but we're going to do the best we can. So without further ado, and if you'd like a little bit about yourself, like I said, there's a reason why you're here, but let's let people know who you are. And
thanks, Sergey. Pleasure to be here. Pleasure to be with both of you. We met at the American Academy for Anti-Aging conference, and then I had you on my Mitochondria summit last summer. So it's wonderful to reconnect. I am a nurse practitioner by trade. I left the Western conventional medicine model after 21 years and focus specifically on functional medicine. Now I have a virtual functional practice, and my specialty is really helping people regain their health and energy. I solve problems at the gut and mitochondria level. And what else would you like to know?
Oh God, that's everything, literally. Functional medicine, that's the root nature of our practice, literally. And what I call that is functional holistic. And I believe you are of a very similar mindset. I mean, we could talk back and forth for a while, but I would love to have your expertise and your take. In other words, let's talk about gut health. That's topic number one. Why is that important? Because to me, in my practice, gut, the first question I ask is about the gut. Yeah. And that's really the center of health for a lot of things. But please, let's see your perspective.
Yeah. So definitely, if you come to me with an energy problem, if you come to me with a brain fogginess problem, if you come to me with a skin problem like eczema, if you come to me with headaches, joint pain, the first thing I'm going to ask is, has anyone addressed your gut health? Or have you tested your gut health? Have you looked at this? Because it truly is where we need to begin. We can learn so much from gut testing. We can find out, if you have underlying infections, if the good bacteria is not functioning properly. We can find out if you have inflammation in there. We can see how your immune system is functioning from a gut perspective. And really, if you leave this out, in my opinion, you're going to be chasing your tail, trying to solve problems. You're really just running around trying to put Band-Aids on symptoms without actually solving at the crux of it, right? At the root of it. We like to call it root cause in functional medicine. And it's interesting. I'm working with a client right now who was actually working with another functional medicine practitioner first. And she said, my root cause is my antibiotic use and my surgeries. And I want to invite everyone listening to think about this differently. That is actually not a root cause. Antibiotics and surgeries are not the root of your problem. It merely opened the door. It opened the door for the true root cause or the true root problem, which we really need to go even further upstream and look at the intracellular spaces. So terrain theory and look at toxins and see what's happening at that level that now your immune system can't solve the problem on its own. I'm glad I'm seeing heads nodding. You guys are in agreement. Okay.
Absolutely. 100%. Thank you. Beautifully said. Please continue. This is great.
Yeah. So unless we are evaluating the toxic load, so I'll just use, I'm gonna share some things that may seem maybe head scratchers for people. So let's just talk about candida. Okay. So in gut testing, we can look for candida if it happens to show up on your test, which it may not, because it really likes to stick to the inside of your intestinal wall. And if it's not excreted on the day of your stool sample, you might not catch it. But let's say we do see candida on your gut test. So now you really have a buy-in that we need to do something about this because you see it on your test. So now what I think a lot of practitioners will do, or what is taught is, well, you need to go on a low sugar diet. You need to go on a low carb diet, and you need to take some herbs to kill this candida, and you should be good to go. Well, if we're thinking about root cause, we want to know why is that candida really there? Your immune system is so intelligent. Your body is so intelligent that your body can actually solve this problem for you if that's all it was. But candida likes to live in community with toxins. So when I see candida, I want to know what's going on with heavy metals, what's going on with potentially radioactive elements like uranium and radon. And I want to solve that problem, because once you solve that is the true root cause. Once you solve that, your immune system is so brilliant, it can solve the problem on its own. So that is the difference between true root cause and kind of this term that gets thrown around like, oh, the root of your candida problem is sugar. No, it's not. Sugar is just fuel to the fire. But what sparked the fire in the first place?
Thank you. My personal perspective, and I'll share this with you. We already talked about it perhaps. I look at everything in the world, in the universe, literally in my universe, through 3 lenses. And if it passes through these 3 lenses, then I know that it's the real thing. Then I know that I'll partake in that, or that I will honor, in other words, so on and so forth. And if it's not, then it still really has no place in my universe. And what you're talking about literally falls for, so satisfies the three criteria that I'm going to talk about: truth, love, and light. So thank you for what you're talking. Thank you for the introduction. We're going to go further and deeper into this, but the idea that we need to know the truth. And the truth is that there's layers and layers and layers. And in holistic functional medicine, again, there's many functional providers. And I'm going to say, there's some here in Springfield, Missouri, and I'm sure there's some functional providers where you are. Now, there's different calibers of functional providers. And the question is, functional medicine, I just thought about that. It wasn't necessarily original part of the question, but when you seek a functional medicine specialist, someone like, for example, Laura or myself, now what qualities do you look for in the functional medicine doc? In other words, because there's some people hang out the shingle functional. What does functional mean? In the very basic sense, it's looking for the answers, for the root, for the root cause and for the why. But the question is, how far and how deep is the provider, and are you willing to dig to get to the truth, to see the light of the matter, and to give love into it, so that the pattern that have created the situation are now able to be reversed. And I'm talking about the patterns, not just any given thing. Change the sugar, change that, or drink more water. All good suggestions, but again, you have to work with the underlying energy pattern and the reason why to the deepest root. If a person is not willing to dig down and look for the answers on a deep enough level, then that's as far as you'll go. Is that your observation, Laura?
Oh yeah, for sure.
And then I'm sorry, please, yeah. What actually a wonderful opportunity to have the founder of Holistic Movement, one of the founders, Dr. Norm Shealy, talk about that. What about the term of functional, holistic, or integrative? And I know you talk about that a lot.
Well, I don't think integrative is bullshit.
Well, there you have it.
Kindest thing I can say about it. The establishment has never accepted holistic at all, in any word whatsoever. We need to depth psychology is what I call it.
Got you. And again, my question is, if a provider, if the functional medicine doc is not willing to go deep enough, or to the highest level, then again, you're not solving the problem. And I'm just going to say a couple of things on that matter. There's different levels: physical levels, mental, emotional levels, and there's spiritual levels. And unless you cover all 3, in other words, who am I? Why am I doing this? Where is the highest pattern coming from? Am I controlling the pattern, or is that pattern controlled hijacked by some kind of a traumatic or situational response that has now set off a pattern that leads to bad outcomes? And that's going to be a consistent situation. until some pattern changes. So let's talk about Flora, and please jump in. And I would love to have any wisdom, any pearls, and anything that you'd like to share. Your patient experiences, your personal experiences, anything on your mind on this topic, so that we can enlighten our audience and your audience, and just basically anyone who is listening about what we're talking about.
Yeah. So what I was just explaining to you obviously lives in the physical realm when we're talking about removing, toxic elements that could create an environment for a pathogen to live. Then that's the physical thing that needs to be removed. But in my experience over the years, I definitely have worked with people who did all the physical things correct. They followed the protocols to a T, and their problem still did not resolve. And so that's where we really need to do the emotional work and the spiritual work, because sometimes we're more attached to our sickness than our wellness. And we really need to unpack what that's about. One of my mentors once said to me, "You're always winning the game you're playing." So if you're not getting better, you truly, truly get to look inward. And this may be uncomfortable for some, and some may hear me say this and say, well, I don't like her. I'm not going to listen to her. But you have to inspect yourself at a deep level. If you are not getting well, it's possible you are more committed to your sickness than wellness. And it's possible you are actually receiving a gain from being sick. Perhaps it's attention. Perhaps it's getting out of doing something you don't want to do. And we do it on a subconscious level. So I would say that there are so many aspects to healing, and some of it is out of our consciousness. So being open to explore that and what could be happening at a subconscious level, and then deeper, being open and to actually doing the deeper work, I'm trying to say, and do the trauma release and do the deep spiritual work, because oftentimes that is the solution. And, the physical piece is not enough.
Wonderful. Wow. Thank you. I'm literally still processing this, and the depth of it goes way beyond words. Dad, any thoughts on that?
I understand 10% of what she says.
Oh, because hard to hear? Yeah. Okay. There's a little bit of an auditory problem, but let me actually point to you a question of, because here's the thing. Dr. Shealy has written a book, as a matter of fact. It's called Pain Game. And in that book, it's not a big book, but it outlines the games that patients play and the games that the system plays.
Oh, interesting.
It's an interesting little read. Now, you wrote this a number of decades ago,
right,
when you were still in the neurosurgical kind of field, and that's when you were the dorsal cord stimulator, TENS unit, all those discoveries, and then leading to other patents and things of that nature. So the idea that Dr. Shealy went into mental, emotional, and spiritual is that there is indeed those things a secondary gain, and it's not always very obvious as to what that secondary gain is. It could be keeping a person from necessarily connecting more with their partner, for example, and maybe there's a reason for that, because they want to keep that distance, in other words. Now, how that happens, instead of clear communication, preferably clear, open, and respectful communication, perhaps this is the defensive mechanism that leads to sort of health behaviors that are killing us. And as an example, Laura, you started talking about the gut. What are some of your thoughts and protocols when it comes to ideas, when it comes to gut health and healing? Let's say somebody comes to you, there's digestive issues. It's just basically most people in general, and they're saying, hey, where do I start? What testing do you do? In other words, if you don't mind talking about, what do you recommend? How do you go about this?
Yeah. So the first thing I would say is what we're going to talk about here is the mechanical aspect of the physical aspect of restoring gut health. And, there's the typical way that I was initially taught in functional medicine to clear out microbes and restore and, replace the 4R protocol. But over time, I learned that there was aspects missing to this, and that sometimes I would start working protocols with people and they would drop their energy and they would have a Herxheimer reaction. And really then at that point, they didn't want anything to do with me because I made them feel so lousy. And then I learned, as we all do, we're constantly learning on our journey, that there are some things you can do to support gut healing. And there's an order of operations to gut healing that is important. And oftentimes I find practitioners go right into a kill mode. They see a parasite there on a gut test, they see bacteria there, and they just want to go straight into killing that. And really, the phase of preparing the body to remove that microbe is just as important as the removal process, and actually could define your success or not success or failure, I would say, in the process. So getting the system ready, I like to call it creating a runway for your body to be able to remove the toxins and the microbes in a safe way that doesn't drop your energy, is critical. And so you do that by first opening your internal drainage pathways. We want to funnel all toxins and microbes that are dying off towards the bowels. We don't want that die off to be coming out through the skin, or to be going out through the kidneys, or to be, the toxins being released from microbes dying to be going into the brain and causing brain fog. So the first thing you want to do is support kidney, liver, lymphatics, bowels, get everything moving in the right direction. Also support your digestion. So you asked what we could do to test. You can test. It's simple gut test will tell me what's happening with digestion and pancreatic markers. Plus, we could take your history and find out, you can tell us how it feels, what it feels like after you eat a meal, and we can pretty much tell you if you need digestive support or not. But if you need digestive support, get that on board first, because you are going to need a higher level of energy to heal your body, which means every bit of food that you take in, all those nutrients need to be broken down and absorbed into your body effectively and efficiently so that you can heal. So support digestion right up front. And I think a lot of people don't know this too. If you support digestion at the top, oftentimes you can solve the constipation at the bottom. People are obsessed with, well, I got to take something to make my bowels move, but maybe you need to start with digesting better at the top, so that this cascade of events can solve itself at the bottom. So I would start with opening the drainage pathways first. And second, I would layer in the antimicrobials, the parasite killers, the bacteria killers. And I would gently bring in binders as well to mop up toxins as they're being released, so you can get those safely out of the body. And at any point when you feel you're ready, I would layer in rebuild protocols. So this is where you start repairing the integrity of the gut lining. There's no wrong time to do this. You can do it at the beginning, you can do it in the middle, you can do it in the end, but don't skip drainage before you start killing, is what I would say. That's what I've learned in my years. And people have a lot more success.
100, absolutely agree. It's a similar concept that I could talk about, that people can relate to maybe a little easier, is in the emergency room. I've been an emergency room doc for 20 plus years now. And there's a concept, A, B, C, D, E, airway, breathing, disability, exposure, in other words. And then, then you got everything else, so to speak. So the idea is, when I see a trauma victim, let's say there's a gaping wound on the leg, but they're barely breathing, I'm not going to worry about the leg if the resources are not available. I'm going to focus on the most concerning situation. So similar, I suppose, is you could make an analogy there, I imagine.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So we have somebody asking, Leota, what is drainage? And I'm glad you asked this, because it's something that is missed oftentimes in functional medicine practice. So that drainage is just that. It is supporting the pathways where we remove toxins from our body. So drainage organs are liver, gallbladder, lymphatic system, kidneys, bowels, and all of that needs to be working and not clogged up in order for you to successfully remove toxins and microbes.
Wonderful, and we'll take questions as we go along. And thank you so much for reminding. Now on my screen, I don't see the questions coming up. So if something does come up, okay, much better. All right, excellent. Now there's a question: uranium. Okay, now we're getting into the heavy metals. That's interesting, uranium, because one of the things that I test for when under certain circumstances, or when things are not getting better under regular conditions, is heavy metals. And this is one of those things that is concerning. Let's talk about that.
Well, I mentioned it early on. Uranium and radon can be a food source for candida. So that question popped up when I was talking about that. So uranium is definitely in our water source. That's the most common way that it gets into your body. So drinking purified water. And then there are areas of the country or areas of the world where it's more common than others. And you can actually find maps so for the United States, for example, you can find maps where radon and uranium are in higher levels. I live in Southern California. It is a hot spot. And so I drink purified water to get that. And make sure your purifier is graded to remove radon and uranium.
Oh, God, yeah, absolutely. And speaking of water, by the way, if anyone is not familiar or aware, fluoride and you have, I think we're having a little bit of a feed issue, so we were frozen a little. Are we back?
Yeah, I've got you.
All right. I'm not sure what I'm saying is, came through, but yeah, make sure the water filter is also it's either reverse osmosis or adequate for pretty much metals, but also fluoride and other things. Fluoride in the water. Now that is terrible, isn't it?
It's poison, period.
Yes.
I told my dentist I'd sue him and quit him if he put fluoride in my mouth.
Oh God, yeah, and that is, and there's a reason Dr. Shealy, has for saying that, because fluoride is a metabolic poison. It's a thyroid. It's literally just endocrine system destroyer and lots of other functions. But let's talk about Laura. Let's until further questions, chronic health conditions and why it's not necessary to have that, because that's our philosophy here.
Yeah, it's an option, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So when we think about layers of chronic health conditions, of course, there are mild health conditions, and then there's more severe. On the severe spectrum, we have your neuroinflammatory disorders like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. We have cancer. We have severe heart disease. On the lower spectrum, we've got some milder autoimmune disorders. And of course, even milder than that is symptoms before we start to create conditions and syndromes, and then eventually develop diseases. In my practice, what I always think of is chronic disease is optional, and it's also a sign of end-stage mitochondrial decline. So we have a name for end-stage mitochondrial decline. It's called cancer. It's called Alzheimer's. It's called Parkinson's. It's called heart disease. And there are a lot of clues that occur in your health long before you get to that phase. So it's understanding and identifying the clues that are coming up and solving the problem before it gets end-stage. And the problem is we are a very reactive culture. Most people don't come to me until they've had some sort of catastrophic event, or they've lost their ability to work. They're on disability because of their health problems, or their relationships are falling apart because their health is in the way. Unfortunately, most of us are not solving the problem at the preventive stage. It's just the truth of the matter. There's a handful of people that we work with that are preventive, that will put the time, effort, and money towards solving health problems, but the majority of humans are reactive. Unfortunately.
100%. And thank you for mentioning that. Actually, Dad has a saying that, and he's been leading the path on holism for since the founding times of the movement over 5-6 decades now. And I think the statistic is that only 3% of all people have all the proper health habits in its absolute best.
Actually,
3%.
0.5%, but
0.5. That's not much.
And yeah, and I'm not saying everyone has to be perfect. In other words, at this point, I'm just going to jokingly say, as a young man, it's like I had certain expectations of myself and my physical, body and otherwise, performance and otherwise. Now, again, the running joke is I'm okay with a 4-pack and a little pouch, again, as long as that pouch is not getting too big, But I mean, I try to, stay as well as I can. So, nothing is absolutely perfect, but we have to be in the best possible shape for us, given the situation we're in, given the work and the family and everything we're in. And again, there's nothing that's going to be 100%. That's the other thing. Laura, how often do you run into a situation where a person is either like, I'm either going to be healthy, totally healthy, or I'm going to not worry about, not do anything, And what about the center? What about the middle, the gray?
Yeah. So every once in a while, someone comes to me, very rarely, who is in excellent health. And they say, I just want to keep it that way. That's why I'm coming to see you. And usually, I'm not kidding, they're usually in their 80s. So I have this group of people in their 70s and 80s who say, I'm doing everything right. And I feel like I'm getting rained on by toxins, and I feel like it's getting harder and harder to stay healthy. And I just want you to check and see if there's anything I can do to be even better. So that's a tiny percentage of people that I see. And then in the middle, the huge percentage of people that I see are people who have low energy, brain fogginess. Their hormones feel dysregulated. They've got anxiety. They've got, they're mid-aged, meaning like 50s, 60s. And all of a sudden their skin is breaking out with, acne like they were a teenager. Like, what's going on? They've got, dermatitis. They've got joint pain, and their doctor's just telling them, well, it's arthritis. Maybe they've now developed osteoporosis, and they're really interested in preventing a bigger disease. They're worried about diabetes. They're worried about heart disease. They're worried about cancer because they saw their parents or siblings go through this. So they want to do something about it. Or they're also very driven people who had a level of productivity at work that they haven't been able to achieve for the last 5 or 10 years because they just can't rely on their brain anymore, and they can't rely on their energy. And so they know that there's got to be something better, and they remember what it felt like to be super productive. And then on the very other side of the spectrum is the people who are very, very, very ill. They've already survived cancer a couple of times. They've got, they're starting to get prescription medications that they have to take at this point, because if they don't, they can't function. And so there's those ends of the spectrum, the uber healthy and the people who have chronic disease already. And the majority of people are somewhere in the middle.
Perfect. It's a wonderful conversation. And thank you so much for what you just introduced. Now, let's see, I just saw a little comment. That statement motivated me to make an appointment with you.
Okay, I'm not sure which statement it was. Somebody's asking.
If it's whether it's you or me, I mean, that's a wonderful thing, because, being proactive and setting up with a holistic doc or provider, I just want to mirror on that statement. Should be not the last minute situation where you have failed everything conventional. Actually, one thing that Dr. Shealy, when I joined Dr. Shealy about 7 years ago in the quest for holism together, we had a constant slide on a presentation PowerPoint, and it literally says, it's a doctor and a patient, and the statement is something like, well, now that we have failed all the conventional stuff, and now we can maybe consider an option of an alternative, or should be holistic actually, with over 98% success rate and an excellent safety profile. Maybe now's the time. Well, maybe the time is before. Maybe the time is when we are still good and we want to stay good, because it's easy to lose, but it's harder to regain.
Yeah, I mean, the time is to prevent. You want to prevent the problem. You don't want to wait until something catastrophic has happened.
Now, the other thing is, and this is another big topic of mutual interest, but I think this is something that there's one of your specialties, is energy and mitochondria. As a matter of fact, the whole summit was focused on energy and mitochondria, and that's a lot of wisdom in that. What can we talk about briefly? In the next 30 minutes or so, about mitochondria, out of just, if you had to choose the most essential aspects on the energy of life.
Right. So regarding mitochondria, that's a big concept. A lot of people watching may wonder, I mean, I've heard of that in biology class. I know when it was introduced to me in biology class, I kind of tuned out. Learning about the mitochondria energy production cycle is a whole bunch of boring science. So, so as not to bore everyone, let's make it fun and simple. Mitochondria are responsible for producing 90% of the energy. Now, I like to talk about energy as an invisible energy and an energy that we notice. So the energy that you feel, the energy that you experience throughout the day, when you say, oh, I've got, enough energy, or I hit a slump in the middle of the day, that's kind of a physical energy that we feel. But then there's a whole other aspect of energy that runs the internal machinery, right? So we don't feel our heart beating. We don't feel our lungs taking a breath. I mean, if we really think about it, we can experience it. If we feel our pulse, we can experience it. If we pay attention to our breath, we can experience it. But we don't feel ourselves digesting food. We don't feel most of the cellular activities that are happening. All of that requires energy made by your mitochondria. So there's that energy that's kind of running in the system in the background, and then there's the energy we actually notice. It's all mitochondrial energy. And we produce our body weight in energy every day. We need to make constant energy. In fact, if we cease to make energy, we cease to live, because it is required for everything. So think about energy as constantly feeding. You're constantly feeding an ATM machine. Right? You are constantly needing to withdraw. You need to put something in. So you have your job, you work, you make money, you put it in the bank account, and then you're constantly pulling it out to spend it. That's what's happening. You are feeding the mitochondria machine, and then you are constantly withdrawing all day long. And it's a never-ending process. And so when we feed that machine, it's with the nutritious food that we eat. So we need B vitamins, we need magnesium, we need carnitine, we need amino acids, we need CoQ10, we need all of these incredible nutrients to make our mitochondria work. We also need to burn fuel. And so we need a fuel source. Carbs and fats are your fuel source for your mitochondria. Fat being the most fuel efficient burning, kind of like putting super unleaded gasoline in your car. It burns better. Carbs burns dirty, by the way. So that's where, if you want to jumpstart your mitochondria, something like a keto diet may support you with that. Intermittent fasting may support you with that. But what we put in matters. So from a mitochondria energy perspective, you don't want to feed yourself garbage. You've heard garbage in, garbage out. Well, put high quality food in, you get high quality energy out. And then we need to think about all the assaults on our mitochondria every day. So what are the things that could prevent mitochondria from making energy? So maybe you're fueling it right. Maybe you're eating healthy, but you still feel tired. Well, maybe that's because there's something gumming up the system, something blocking your mitochondria from making energy. So maybe it's toxins coming from your body wash and your deodorant. Maybe it's your laundry soap that's bringing toxins in. Maybe it's the radiation from your cell phone. Maybe it is, the air you're breathing or the water you're drinking that has toxins in it that you're not aware of. Or it's the off-gassing volatile organic compounds coming off of your furniture. Or maybe you have heavy metal exposure. So all of these things are going to slow down the cellular mechanisms and process in the body. So it's not just one thing. What I would like to say is you cannot eat your way out of this. Not in today's age, not in 2023. You cannot eat your way out of this. You have to be a savvy health consumer. You need to advocate for yourself, and you need to educate yourself on all of the things that are assaulting your body every day.
And I'm going to say one more thing is, let's say, and I have a lot of patients who come from other functional medicine clinics, and things that have not worked. Let's put it this way. I mean, may have worked, may have improved, but ultimately the issue is not solved. And the ultimate answer that I ask is, it's not about the protocol. It's not about the name behind the protocol. I mean, hey, it's like we can talk about our protocols. Dr. Shealy has put together, a clinical set of protocols, I should say, for various health conditions without drugs, without medications, and to get off medications, effective in over 36,000 cases plus. and over time. And this is definitely plus. On top of that, but again, it's not about the protocol. And we have people who we apply those protocols, and it doesn't exactly work, or sometimes it works just the opposite. In other words, then there's no scientific reason. I was a chemistry major back in college. It was interesting. The chemicals are chemicals basically, but there is no rhyme or reason why one person would react just exactly the opposite of what it's supposed to. And I don't have a chemical explanation for that or biological explanation, but hey, human beings do that. And the one thing that my aspect of functional medicine is that it's system within systems. And when one system goes bad, for example, hormones, you have to ask yourself, why is it that you're chasing the hormones? And there are people who chase the hormones, for example, even bioidentical hormones, which is better than 100 times better than regular hormone replacement, safer and much more effective. And that's one of the main things that we do here. But the other thing is the gut and the biome, the sensitivities, the immune system. And from there, you have to also consider metabolism, insulin, how the sugar is metabolized, and of course, the autonomic nervous system, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal, in other words, the stress response, and the cortisol activation, cortisol syndrome, basically, in our society. And everything plays in, immunity plays in. So when something is not working, question is, what is going on in the system? What are we doing? What are we not doing?
Michael McCorsky, Porsche Springfield.
Oh, sorry about that. Terrible of me. But Laura, I apologize. Other than very rude and terrible interruption, what is your take on this topic?
What's the question?
Gotcha. Well, brains are wonderful when they work. That squirrel went somewhere. Let's see if we can remember. Well, it's all right. Well, we'll come back to the topic, but I did want to mention briefly that we do have right here in Springfield because food intake and nutrition is so important. One of the things that Dr. Shealy does and recommends in terms of if you don't take your veggies and fruits, in other words, and you get your greens in. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? In other words, it's a small container of a concentrate of a certain fruit that you cherry juice concentrate that you drink for the past maybe 10, 20 years. Huh?
Well, first I start with probiotics.
Yes, sir.
That's absolutely essential. Secondly, you need a variety of food. Actually, I eat personally only eggs from outside the vegetable family. I haven't, I will occasionally eat some meat, but I don't need it.
Well, it's a change in need. Before, I think you were doing a lot more protein.
Yes.
When you were more active. And actually, Laura, speaking of nutrition, that is actually one of the key factors. Whatever you already made a statement. I'm just gonna say it again. Garbage in, garbage out. Mm-hmm. And the gut, we're going to come back to the original question, how we first started. The gut is the key to either health or lack of health. And there is something called tight junctions in the gastrointestinal lining. It's a one layer thick, in other words. So when there's inflammation, when there's problems, when we put garbage or poisons or heavy metals or anything of that nature, when we disrupt the lining of the gut, when we eat things, for example, from the middle of the supermarket or things processed or highly dangerous and otherwise, and we create an atmosphere of inflammation and disorder in the GI system, the whole thing can actually will be permeable, and all the toxins will then make their way through into the bloodstream, and then the liver gets overwhelmed, and the immune system gets overwhelmed, and then we wonder why people get so many runny noses and so many infections on top of the constipation and poor mental health and a variety of inflammatory and vascular and metabolic conditions, blood pressure, diabetes, hypertension, cholesterol, and eventually strokes and heart attacks. So when I see that package, and I know I'm kind of like talking about something that's kind of very close to me, but when I see that package, I'm not surprised. How did it happen? Where is the root cause? Back to the original question. And the root cause for most things is our choices, whether we take care of ourselves, and lifestyle, supplements, macros, and as we said, where are we? Please, your perspective.
So my perspective is that the lifestyle choices are opening the door to destroy the immune system and dysregulate mitochondria, gut connection, brain gut connection. And then deeper than the lifestyle choices is what those, by opening the door, what allows to come into your body from those lifestyle choices. So from a root cause perspective, toxins, heavy metals, mold toxins, environmental toxins, parasites, bacteria, fungus. This, from my perspective, is a root cause. The lifestyle piece is just unlocking and opening the door for those things to get in and cause a problem.
Well taken. Actually, absolutely. Now, speaking of, if you have a patient, let's say, who has mental health issues, physical issues, inflammation issues, gut issues, and just all around chronic pain, brain fog, just not feeling well, just a complete mystery and totally failed conventional medical model. Mm-hmm. So this is what in the emergency room it would be called the train wreck, so to speak. Again, that's the standard term. Now it's different from a functional perspective because, holistic functional perspective because, spirit, soul, mind, body. We are spirit, soul. We work in the control center, change the patterns, change the environment, and things will get better, hopefully. And if not, then figure out other ways until you get there. Please, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to kind of jump in there. But
did you have a question?
Yes. There are several aspects. There are several questions, and one. I do apologize. That train has kind of left the tracks. But another one came in, and I'd like to address that. How do you work with heavy metals and the poisoning? Because there's two types of poisoning. There's organophosphates, and there's things that come from exposure, let's say farm and otherwise food. And then there's metals. So the reason that train track became more important to me is because this is not something that people are aware of. And I think we really should open up and explore that. So
first, I would say that this is where functional medicine lab testing becomes really supportive. In terms of metals, metals are tricky. Unless you are challenging metals to come out of your body, they're one of the most dangerous things that we get exposed to. So your body is so intelligent, it will pack these metals away deep, deep, deep inside your cellular spaces. And unless they're provoked to come out, then chances are we're not going to often see the true level of metals. You might see a little bit, but you're not going to see the true level. So really you can use lab testing to look for other clues. One of them we already talked about today was candida. If you have candida, then you really want to be thinking there's probably metals there. So that's one example. And then in terms of testing, I like to test for mold mycotoxins. I like to test for environmental toxins, pesticides, herbicides, volatile organic compounds, the chemicals that we get from skin products like phthalates and parabens. And then, so you check for all of this. And then based on what you find there, you can create protocols that can address each of those things and bind these chemicals and get them out of the body. But the very first step before you do anything goes back to opening those internal drainage pathways, which we talked about earlier. That would be the first step for gut healing. it also is the first step for detoxing. So it's a myth that you can do a juice cleanse and detox your body. So you've heard the concept that you lived into this, now you get to live out of it. There's no such thing as a 2-week detox or a 2-month detox. A detox usually takes a year or more, couple of years, to truly pull the toxins out safely and deeply. So I don't mess around with, juice detoxes, for example. We want to know exactly what you're dealing with, and then we want to build protocols unique to you that can help get this out of your body safely and go for it at a deep level.
That is absolutely what I wanted to, what I was hoping to hear in this discussion. And thank you. Appreciate you.
Leota, your allopathic doctor is not going to check for this. I worked in allopathic medicine for over 20 years before I shifted into functional medicine, and never once did we have an effective test for toxins. Never once did we talk about, you have diabetes, how's your gut health? Or, you have diabetes, let's look for what's causing inflammation in your body. I mean, we don't do that in conventional medicine, unfortunately. It's not set up that way. And quite frankly, I mean, if you really wanted to get into a discussion of why, then you have to follow the dollar. And there is no money in prevention. I mean, there's a lot of money in prescribing drugs. I know, I prescribed a lot of them. And, that's a whole nother talk. We could do a whole nother hour-long talk on that.
Actually, I think we can and we should at some point, but I agree in the same capacity. It's basically, what is the business model? How does it work? Follow the money, follow the power, follow the control.
Wellness is not a great business model. My goal, and I'm sure is your goal, is to get our patients to the place where they don't need us anymore. Really. I mean, then we're successful. If you don't need to come to my office anymore, knock on my door, then we've done our job.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. That's exactly what I say to my people. And my idea and my concept is, and I would like to get your perspective on this. I tell people that I'd like to see them for about a year. In other words, and this is because the year is how long it takes to generate the lifetime patterns. And once you're a lifestyle, once you figured out what's good for you, what's not good for you, what's coming in, what you need to cut out, how to watch out for bad things, how to get good things in, and who you are, and you develop the habits, self-regulation, mental, emotional, physical, spiritual patterns, outcomes. You're happy, good. I want to say hello to you, in the supermarket or on a golf course or something of that nature, Now, if you need to come in, say hi, something happens, great, come on in. But the idea is to give the person their own internal control and internal sufficiency. And my take is God doesn't make junk. We do. But we also get to clean it up. It's absolutely wonderful and refreshing to hear that from you as well, that you're not in the business of retaining clients for life. You are.
No. At most they come back once a year for a tune-up to check in and see, like you would have a checkup with your regular doctor, you'd have a checkup with your functional practitioner as well. And, run an organic acids test, see what's going on, adjust your supplement and wellness recommendations from there, and see you in a year.
Wonderful. And that's just so much better model than chasing illness after illness after illness and then maybe hospitalization. It's just it's incredible. Now, may I ask you to just to kind of go back to the roots and just how did you become interested in a functional medicine, or actually in your case I would call it holistic, because you are holistic from what I understand.
Yeah, I'm gonna answer this, and then I'm gonna have to go because I have to go teach a class here in 10 minutes. So, and so really, after many, many years, probably after about 15 years in the Western medicine space, I worked in a preventive medicine clinic for a long time. And I finally realized that we weren't actually practicing prevention. We were practicing early detection. So in the Western world, we call a mammogram and we call a colon cancer test a screening, and we call a PSA prostate test a screening test, and we call it prevention. But really, is a mammogram for prevention, or is a mammogram to find cancer early enough to treat it? Is it truly prevention? I want you to really think about that. Because we're not preventing anything with a mammogram. We're looking for early detection. Prevention is preventing at the cellular level. It's about what's going into your body and removing the toxins that are there. So it was once that I finally put all that together and realized I'm not practicing prevention. I'm practicing early detection. And then I wanted to get into the prevention game. So that's really what brought me. I mean, in a nutshell, if I'm being honest, that's what brought me to functional medicine, was true prevention.
Wonderful, wonderful, and I sure absolutely appreciate you. Now we'll continue to take questions as they come in, or if there's anything that else comes to mind. How can people find you, and how do you do what you do?
Thank you. So you can find me at laurafrontiero.com. Frontiero is spelled like the Great Frontier with an O on the end. Don't forget that I in the middle. And you can find me on Instagram, laura.frontiero. And I work virtually. So yeah, I am physically based in Southern California, but I work with people all over the country, Canada and Europe as well. And everything I do is virtual based.
Wonderful. What we're going to do is we're going to actually put your information on the in the comments, so people can actually connect with you. Thoughts or anything else, the audience, and just with the people of the world, because truth, light, love, and this is what it is. No wasted words here. Everything that came through is just loud and clear, to the point. I think we addressed quite a few things. Perhaps we addressed too many things, but I just wanted to make sure at least we throw them out there.
Yeah, we went deep. So final words would be that no matter where you are at in your health journey, it's not too late to make a change. You are here living and breathing on planet Earth, and that means that your life matters. And it's never too late to turn this around and solve this. I don't buy into, I talked to a client, well, not a client, I talked to somebody who wanted to be my client earlier today. And he said, I know I'm going to die of this disease. And in my mind, I'm thinking, well, that is definitely going to happen if you speak it into truth and existence.
Yes.
So be careful with your words. Be careful with your words and your thoughts, and that it is not too late. And I know that I can help people who can see a vision for their health. If you can see a possibility of what your life can be like once you solve these symptoms and these problems, then I can help you. Then Dr. Sorin can help you. Dr. Sergey can help you. So Dr. Shealy can help you. So this is what you need to focus on, is your vision.
Thank you. Another thing is, and I know, just give me about 30 seconds before you have to head out, so I can say a proper goodbye. But I'd like to mention another word that's going to be essential in a functional and holistic medical model. Because other than that, don't waste your money, don't waste your time, and just literally, it's if whatever you put in, garbage in, garbage out, great things in, great things out. Responsibility and follow through.
Mm-hmm.
If you, without that, now Dad has seen a lot more medicine and holistic medicine than I have, decades. Now, what in your experience is when do people succeed? When do people fail?
When they listen to me and follow my advice, and when they do not.
Yes, sir.
It's that simple.
Very good. Laura, what about you? What are your thoughts?
When do people succeed and when do people fail? People succeed the moment that they decide that they're going to succeed. People fail when they're committed to their sickness, not their wellness.
I want to share a personal story from a patient. Wonderful gentleman, musician, and struggling because, again, I'm not going to say anything specific more because confidentiality, but again, he wants to do what he wants to do and he's good at that. And I understand the frustration, and the desire, very strong personality, which can go both ways, of course, depending on if you put too much pressure on yourself. And we made progress, and then there was a stall. There was a plateau, and I think it was very recently, just within a few days, I had another visit with him, and he said something to me. He literally just looked me in the eyes and he said, Dr. Sorin, I realized something. The success of the program here is not about you. It's about me. I'm the one who's going to make the decision. I'm the one who changes my life. I'm the one who opens my eyes to new possibility. I'm the one who decides to be grateful or to be or to be annoyed. I'm the one who looks at the miracles, or I'm the one who looks at the failures and the negatives. In other words, but I want to see what I can do better. Can we do that? And that literally took my breath away. I mean, I couldn't say anything. All I could do is I could reached out and shook his hand and said, I'm with you. That's it. And that's what it's all about. And now he wasn't at 100% where he was going to go, but again, we got a lot more testing to do. We got a lot more conversation. There's I'm referring him to several other specialists who have expertise in things that I don't have necessarily, and vice versa. So but the bottom line is, all is well. God doesn't make junk. Now, Laura, I know you got to head out soon. Thank you. It's been enlightening, and I'd like to have you back as well at some point, and any other ideas you may have. This is wonderful.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Sergey. Thank you, Dr. Shealy. You enjoy the rest of your day. Take good care now. Bye.
Well, before we hang up, before we go, I want to say that was Laura, and she is an amazing energy, medical energy, holistic, however you want to say it, functional expert, and it's people like that. People who care, people who believe in the truth, people who believe in the light, and people who and love, and do things for the right reason. And speaking of things, before we go, I do want to say thank you to our friends and sponsors here in Springfield, Missouri, especially Spring Valley. A wonderful service, great people, and they carry lots of deads and my favorites.
And Coloma.
And Coloma frozen
tart cherry juice concentrate.
Good for you, and especially if you don't get your veggies and fruits in, make sure you do that. But please get your fruits and veggies in. All right. Actually, can people still call in to the show? Okay. Well, let's take a few more questions. I'm sure. I'm glad to stick around. Laura is not here with us at this point, but I'm happy to address and. Okay, question. I live in Queensland, Australia. I would like to have an appointment or conversation. I have tinnitus, and I would also like to purchase castor oil drops for my eyes. I don't know how to do this. If that can be done, absolutely. Thank you very much. It's interesting. We live in Springfield, Missouri here, and in this beautiful town of about 100,000, we have, there's a lot more patients that we have out of the country, out of the continent, as a matter of fact, with a telephone and video and Skype, and Springfield is unfortunately people do not know that we exist, or so let's make it known. Yes, absolutely. There is a website and there's a telephone number. Now, internationally, I'm not sure, but the local is 417-351-5221. I'm sure there's an 800 number. The website is realholisticdoc.com, and there's going to be some links there so you can find us. I would love to talk to you. And yes, we would love to talk about the tinnitus, ringing in the ear, and of course, castor oil and other suggestions. Next question. What settings does Dr. Shealy use on PEMF for your bladder? What's your preferred setting on PEMF for the bladder?
Well, I think the gamma frequency would be my favorite.
Gamma, that's interesting. And gamma has come up several times as possibly anti-inflammatory. And yeah, there we go. All right. Now, I think the question: how can we virtually meet with you for all our healthcare needs? On our end, I know that we do telephone and video consults, and I say Skype, and sorry, that was about a dinosaur decade ago. That's how old I am, kind of. Zoom, excuse me, terminology. I am aware, wrong term, but Okay, next question. But yes, we love to see people through the virtual, and Laura's website is also up there. And between me and her, a wonderful young lady. Is it okay to use PMF 24 hours a day? Amen. Yes, and absolutely. And that's what I would highly recommend. What I do is delta through the night while I charge the unit, and then when I wake up, I've got a 6 to 8 hour battery life. I start with gamma. My brain doesn't turn on like Dr. Shealy's in the morning. I'm not a morning person, but boom, I feel better. And then after a couple of hours, I go to the sweep mode to recharge the cells and optimize. But people, you can use different ways. And now my question is, people used to call in on the phone to the show. It's all typed questions now on the Wednesday show. Okay, absolutely. Yes, we had that capacity. Now, at this point, unfortunately, we are working on technical skills to do so, and that would be wonderful. But for now, we will go with the questions, please. Yep, Zoom. There you go. Now, what does it say? My light broken. Do I need another unit? If it's been, take a look. If it's not working by any means, reach out to our people. And if you got it through the clinic, it's 417-351-5221. If you got it through the online store, let me actually see if I can find a number. In the meantime, we'll see if there is any other questions. But we do, in other words, if something is a concern, then reach out and see if it's under warranty or otherwise. Actually, we have wonderful. Thank you so much. So the store number, if you got it through the store online, it's 417-467-2124. 417-467-2124. Shealy-Sorin Wellness, or online is realholisticdoc.com, and you can, of course, go from there. Now, okay. Oh, yes. I hope we will bring the telephone call in back. Oh God, absolutely. It's a wonderful feature. And speaking of energy, energy is everything. And messages is a form of energy, but voice is better energy. In person is the best energy. Like Dad and I right now, it's great to have.
When you hear her, yes. I did not hear 90% of it come.
The hearing issue, right?
Or I hear you.
Yeah, the headphones.
It's a high-pitched sound that I didn't get from the beginning.
So might be okay. Well, let's technical difficulties. We'll work through it on our IT department. Okay, but let's continue, please. Okay, online. Okay, well, let's see. I'm not sure what the question was. That's all right. Why is iodoral described as a substrate? Okay, iodoral. Iodoral is 12.5 milligrams of iodine, and I would take that once a week. I recommend that once a week, which is what I do and what Dr. Shealy does, and anyone with thyroid support. The iodoral is a substrate because it feeds the thyroid enzymes, and it's the food, literally. The things to avoid is fluoride. That's a poison, and that's why some metabolic, when the tests are normal but you feel terrible and you have all the signs and symptoms of hypothyroid, that's why you got to see a functional medicine doc, because it's not about the lab, which can be falsely normal. It's about you. That's what it's all about. Okay. Let's see. Dr. Shealy, may I have your email, please? Actually, at this point, Dad doesn't really check email that much, so it wouldn't be a fair thing.
Well, if I get it, norm@normshealy.com.
Yeah. But I just wanted to mention, since Dad has retired, we haven't. If you have a question on something, medical question or clinical question, rather than just say hello to this great man here, please reach out to us, because that's. Well, okay. Is it true that men over 50 should use the eugesterone 1200 instead of Adam's formula? Yes, and the reason is And the reason for that is at that point, the testosterone level and the hormonal composition for men now starts to get closer, towards the, where the female requirements are. So especially with the DHEA going down, which is the anti-stress wellness hormone precursor to sex hormones, it's a generally good idea to use eugesterone. Now, if you end up being on the hormone supplementation, and I have a program on that, and I am personally on hormones, on testosterone. And I feel fantastic. I feel like a 20-year-old in an almost 50-year-old body here. I'm giving away my age here, guys, guys and girls. Anyhow, yeah, definitely over 50, or if you're around there, eugesterone generally. Next comment. Dr. Frontiero was a wonderful guest. Thank you. Hugs to both of you. Laura is incredible. I met her in person. She's wonderful. She cares. She does. She's knowledgeable, and she's truly amazing in what she does. So yeah, it will be an honor to have her back. Yes. Okay. What is the best way to treat a lingering cold and flu? Okay, now to start off, you optimize your immune system. So make sure you have a good B complex. Make sure you have vitamin C. Make sure that you have vitamin D and magnesium. Now, other things that are very helpful is if you have an access to intravenous ozone or vitamin C, because that is a lot stronger and more effective way to clean out the body. Intravenous ozone is one of the things that we have here at the clinic, and I've had this here for a number of years, but I've been aware of it a lot longer than that. It's an O3 molecule, thank you, Dad, which is literally a temporary free radical that doesn't last very long, but when you take your blood, it's a self-transfusion, and then blood comes back in. And what you do is you purify the blood also from autoimmunity, any kind of destructive, harmful things, and it presents it to the rest of the bloodstream. So what happens is you literally send a message, a house cleaner, to, hey, come on, let's clean this up. Now, it doesn't, of course, you want to make sure you keep the area clean and do all the other things with lifestyle. If things get worse, antibiotics may be necessary, preferably not. But that's how you do that. And then, of course, detox and allow the body to heal. Be kind, be patient, lots of fluids, and follow your body. Well, we are beyond the hour. Thank you so much for everyone. Again, wonderful segment on functional medicine, talking about gut toxicity, chronic health, lots of things. And next week, we have another wonderful show and another wonderful presenter, guest. So stay tuned. It's going to get better and better as we get along. And this was incredible. Thank you.